Thank you. For those of you unfamiliar with my work, every year I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world so busy folks like you don't have to. So every year my presentations are new because every year the science is new. I then compile all the most interesting, most groundbreaking, most practical findings to new videos and articles I upload every day to my nonprofit site, nutritionfacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no commercial sponsorships, strictly non-commercial, not selling anything. Just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love. New videos and articles every day on the latest in evidence-based nutrition. Now, if you've seen any of my presentations in the past, you know that I have addressed some of the most pressing dietary issues of our time. Like, what's the healthiest variety of apple, for example, or the most nutritious nut, or the best bean, or the best berry, or the best bowel movement? Who's number one and number two? Well, it certainly wasn't the New Yorkers here. Actually, the most constipated population ever described in the medical literature, outputting a measly 3 ounces a day on average. Maybe if you'd all just eat a big apple once in a while. But this year, today, I thought I'd lighten it up and ask, what's the best way to prevent death? Every year, the CDC compiles the top 15 causes of death. I said, well, let's just go through the list. 1 through 15, and talk about the role diet may play in preventing, arresting, and even potentially reversing our top 15 killers. Killer number 1 is heart disease. The International Journal of Epidemiology recently reprinted this landmark article from the 50s, which started out with a shocking statement. In the African population of Uganda, coronary heart disease practically non-exists. You say, wait a second. Our number 1 killer practically non-existent? What were they eating? Well, they're eating a lot of vegetables, grains, greens, and their protein almost entirely from plant sources, and they had the cholesterol levels to prove it, actually very similar to what you see in kind of modern day plant eaters. You say, wait a second, maybe the Africans were just dying early from other diseases, didn't live long enough to get coronary artery disease. No, here's age-matched heart attack rates in Uganda versus St. Louis. Out of 632 autopsies in Uganda, only 1 myocardial infarction. Out of 632 age and gender matched autopsies in St. Louis, 136 myocardial infarctions, more than 100 times the heart attacks are of the rate of our leading killer. In fact, they're so blown away they went back to another 800 autopsies in Uganda, and still just that 1 small healed infarct, meaning it wasn't even the cause of death, out of 1,427 patients, less than 1 in 1,000, whereas here it's an epidemic. Here's a list of diseases commonly found here and in populations that eat and live like the U.S., but were rare or even non-existent in populations centering their diets around whole, unprocessed plant foods. These are among our most common diseases, like obesity, for example, or hiatus hernia, the most common stomach problem. Varicose veins and hemorrhoids are 2 most common venous problems. Colorectal cancer, leading cancer killer here in the U.S. Diverticulosis, the most common disease of the intestines. Appendicitis, the most number 1 cause of emergency abdominal surgery. Gallbladder disease, number 1 cause of non-emergency abdominal surgery, as well as ischemic heart disease, our commonest cause of death here, but a rarity among plant-based populations, which suggests that heart disease may be a choice, like cavities. If you look at the teeth of people who lived 10,000 years before the invention of the toothbrush, pretty much no cavities. Didn't brush a day in their lives, no flossing, no Listerine, yet no cavities. Why? Candy bars hadn't been invented yet. So why do people continue to get cavities when we know they're preventable through diet? Well, simple, right? Because the pleasure people derive from dessert may outweigh the cost and discomfort of the dentist chair. And look, that's fine, right? As long as people understand the consequences of their actions. As a physician, what more can I do? If you're an adult, you decide the benefits outweigh the risk for you and your family, then go for it. I certainly enjoy the occasional indulgence. I've got a good dental plan. Right? But what if instead of the plaque on our teeth, we're talking about the plaque building up inside of our arteries? Another disease that can be prevented by changing our diet. Okay, now what are the consequences for you and your family? Now we're not talking about scraping tartar anymore. We're talking about life and death.
Should we avoid potatoes, bread, rice, and pasta?
So it's interesting. So if you look at, I do encourage people to, the bottom line is encourage people to stick to whole foods whenever possible. So pasta's fine, but I'd like people to have whole grain pasta. And actually sweet potatoes I think are healthier than white potatoes, and I give my kind of reasons why. And in general, flour products, even when they're whole wheat, are not great because you starve your microbial self. Because when you if you actually eat, so they do this really neat studies where they basically give people the same diet, but they grind up everything beforehand. So instead of beans, they give some people chickpeas, some people hummus. They give some people bread, and some people like actually wheat berries. And you do that for grains. And you chop up your oatmeal or steel cut oatmeal, and you can dramatically boost the weight of their stool. And actually most of the weight of a stool is actually pure bacteria. It's just trillions and trillions of bacteria. And so you are so much, because little pieces of starch, no matter how well you chew, actually get down past our small intestine into our lower intestine. And actually, these are the prebiotics, the fiber-resistant starch, the prebiotics that feed our good gut bacteria, so much so that they go crazy when you eat kind of whole intact grains, not just whole grains. So whole intact grains are preferable because then we leave some for our gut bacteria. We're learning more and more about the benefits of the microbiome. Whereas when you process foods into flour or grind them up, they become so efficiently absorbed that other than the fiber, you're not leaving anything. And we feed them, they feed us. There's really some cool stuff out there about the microbiome.
So a lot of vegetarians will look to things like shakes or powders to supplement their protein intake. Have there been any studies on whey protein isolate and if it elicits the same kind of immune inflammation response as dairy, like a glass of milk and cheese?
Right, yeah, so whey, the biggest problem with whey protein is it's high in leucine content. So leucine is a branched chain amino acid that activates this kind of engine of aging enzyme called mTOR. But basically, milk has evolved to do what? To promote growth, right? So dairy milk, literally to put a couple 100 pounds on a calf in a matter of months. And so it's supremely designed to both boost IGF-1, boost mTOR signaling, kind of accelerate growth. And so we just don't, and so the reason we think that high IGF-1 levels and high TOR signaling, leucine intake is associated with these cancers is because it's not that they're causing the cancer, but they're speeding up the amplifying the growth of whatever hidden tumors you have, and so they'll actually appear within your lifespan, which is something that we don't want to have happen. Happy to sign books for anyone. Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, please feel free. Hesitate to call me anytime. My contact information is on the site.